Hi friends, Michelle here, back with the video, and today I'm doing my September/October reading wrap-up. All the books I read in the months of September and October. I've combined the two because the month of September was not great. I only read, I think, 2 books in that whole month, so I just thought I'll do it all together in one video. And here's what I got up to for reading. The first book I read in September was Two Nights in Lisbon by Chris Pavone. This is a suspense thriller. It kind of feels like a spy novel almost. We're following this woman named April, and her husband is John. Yeah, John. Anyhow, they go to Lisbon, Portugal on a business trip. The night after they arrive, she wakes up and he is gone. Ostensibly, he went out to grab them coffee or something like that. He does not return to the hotel. We follow it in real time when she discovers him gone in the morning, all throughout the day, what she does, who she talks to, and the events leading up to what happens next. She tries not to panic at first, but slowly as the day wears on, she doesn't know what to do. She goes to the police, who aren't really helpful. She also goes to the US Embassy, and eventually she does get some help in finding her husband, and the story goes from there. It was fantastic. I was really enjoying this book, but it did get a little bit long in the tooth around the 300-page mark. It kind of lost me there for a while. It kind of got mired down in the, not details, but I just wanted it to progress faster than it did. And I wanted us to get to the point and the conclusion of the story. So that was a bit of a letdown, but all in all, I really enjoyed this. And I do have his latest book on my shelf and looking forward to reading that one. So yeah, I think if you like a really fast-paced read, like I said, this one takes place over a weekend in real time. We're following this woman and her husband and the police and everything. And yeah, there are some disturbing scenes in here. There is a rape that takes place. So if you are sensitive to that kind of thing, just a heads up. But yeah, very, very good. A solid 3 out of 5 stars I gave this one. Next up, I don't know, I found myself in a bit of a slump. So I just wanted to read something that was predictable and fun and didn't require a lot of concentration or focus. So I went back to an author that I had read before when I was a teenager, early 20s, and that is Nora Roberts. Now, I'm not a fan of romance. I say that all the time because it's not my favorite genre of book. And the thing is, with Nora Roberts, she doesn't only write romance. She writes a lot of psychological thrillers. In this book, Mind Games, it's one of her thriller type books. We are following this woman who, her parents are brutally murdered by a serial killer. Her and her younger brother are then taken in by their grandmother, and they go to live with her after the parents pass away. And the grandmother raises them and, gets them the help they need to process their trauma and everything. And the grandmother, however, and the daughter, the main character, her name is Thea. Thea discovers that she has inherited this gift, a gift of extrasensory perception that her grandmother also has and her deceased mother also had. It's been passed down the generations. And what it is that it enables her to read people's thoughts and see what they're doing and what they're thinking, which is an especially terrifying concept, being that she can read the mind of the serial killer who murdered her mother and her father. Also, conversely, the serial killer can also read Thea's thoughts. So this does require some suspension of disbelief, but it is a really fun, comforting read. Nora Roberts has a really great way with dialogue of her characters and family dynamics and just making you feel like you're in this family. And the grandmother is a lovely character who raises Thea and her brother and, you know, assists in the investigation of who killed these people. They're on the trail of the serial killer. And as Thea gets older, we follow her from childhood to adulthood. And, you know, there is a very predictable romance that happens, which, I don't know, it didn't bother me so much. It was just part of the whole experience of reading this book. So, and that's, you know, what you can expect that you're getting with Nora Roberts. So yeah, I enjoyed the predictability in this case because I was just wanting something that was, you know, interesting enough to hold my attention, but didn't require, like I said, a lot of focus. So this was another solid read in September. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars, and yeah, it was a good book. Good book for the mood I was in at the time. Next, and I did do a dedicated video of this book. I picked up The Wolf Gift by Anne Rice, her one and only werewolf duology. This was a really interesting book, a very interesting premise to start off with. We're following a guy named Ruben who inherits this creepy Gothic mansion on a coastal area of California, surrounded by redwoods and all kind of beautiful scenery. And one night there's a violent attack in which he gets bitten by a werewolf. He survives the attack, becomes a werewolf himself, and yeah, we go through all the ramifications of that. However, I don't even know what more to say about this book. If you're curious to know more, please, you can check out my other video where I talk about it at great length, but this became a very implausible and weird and corny kind of a, I don't know, it just wasn't that interesting, and it got very convoluted and very silly very quickly, especially when there were love scenes between this random woman that Ruben meets in the forest and who happens to find him more attractive when he is a wolf than when he is in human form. So that was off-putting. And if there had been more substance to it, I could have probably continued with the story and overlooked that, but like it just got to be too much. The descriptions of the little, you know, him touching her face with his paws and like kissing the little black wolf lips and so on. So I didn't continue. I didn't finish reading it, but it's a shame because I am a fan of Anne Rice. I have enjoyed her previous books, and I was a little disappointed in this one, but I'm glad I tried it. You never know sometimes until you read it. So there you go. Next up, I finally got to a book. Now we're getting into my October books, and I do always like to read kind of creepy, spooky books in the month of October just because it's the season, and this fall, it's been a fantastic, great weather, lots of colorful leaves and that crisp fall air and so on. So yeah, I was in the mood to read a book that I've had on my shelf for a while, and that is We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kliewer, or Kliewer. Anyhow, this is a twist on a haunted house type of a book. We're following a couple who have recently purchased this house. I believe it's in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's a very isolated location, which I love. Creepy old house with a history, which I also love. And this couple, their names are Eve and Charlie. They are in the middle of doing some upgrades, some renos, and unpacking their belongings and so on. And Charlie has gone into town to do some errands or something. So Eve is by herself in the house when this family shows up on the doorstep. The father claiming that the home is his former childhood home, and he's brought his wife and children just to show them around and just see where their dad used to live. So he asks her, you know, do you mind if we just come in? We won't be more than 15 minutes and then we'll be out of your hair. Just wanted to show my family as we're passing through. This gives Eve pause though, because it's very odd being that she can't see a vehicle. She doesn't know how they got there, if they walked on foot, which is very odd. As well, there's also a storm blowing in, a big blizzard coming in, so she's not sure. She is very hesitant to let them into her home, as most people would be, but something about this guy makes her trust him, and she says, okay, sure. You know, my wife's going to be back soon. As long as you're not too long, you can come in for a few minutes and have a look around. This sets off a chain of events that becomes weirder and weirder the further you get into the story. We learn about Eve herself, who has some mental health issues. She has a childhood toy, a monkey that appears to her and talks to her like a voice in her head. And then we also have the father of this family and his wife, who is extremely religious, and then their children, who are very bratty. And yeah, one of them, I don't even know what more to say, but we're following this, and needless to say, the family do not leave after 15 minutes, as they said they would. A storm blows in, and the further you get in the book, the more unreliable a narrator Eve becomes, and you're not sure who to believe or what exactly is going on. Also, to add to the story, we have sections where there are documents of people being interviewed about the characters in the book, these crimes that have happened in the past and so on. So you have like a mixed media sections where there are partial police reports and so on, like this, that kind of are meant to enhance the story and fill in the gaps of the history of these people. Me personally, I found that I didn't really enjoy that part, which is unusual. Normally I love mixed media in a book, but for me it didn't really do anything. In fact, I found towards the end, again, I was getting really impatient for things to wrap up and start making sense and for the story to go somewhere. I liked the main characters less and less the more I read. And yeah, it wasn't really clear to me who I'm supposed to be rooting for or who I'm supposed to like or dislike, which is fine, but it just kind of made me lose interest after a while. And yeah, I just kind of skimmed over the ending. I didn't really care what happened in the end. So it was a disappointment. We used to live here, started out with a bang, and then kind of, it just wasn't for me the way the story unfolded, and it just lost my interest, that's all. Otherwise, I mean, I can see why a lot of people love this book. It is pretty well done. So yeah, if you're interested in a different take on a haunted house kind of a story, meets Psycho, that kind of a thing, you'll probably love this book. Next up, and I did another dedicated video to this one. One of my favorite things I read in October is the book Snap by Susin, Nielsen. Not going to go into too much detail, but we're following these three people who all end up in anger management classes because due to different circumstances in life, they all mentally snap and do an extreme action that lands them in trouble. We are following a 55-year-old children's author named Francis. We're following a 41-year-old man named Geraint who has recently discovered his wife having an affair on him with his boss. And then we have Parker, who is a wardrobe assistant on a film set in Vancouver, and she has recently suffered an assault by the lead actor in the production she's working on. So all these events have triggered them to snap. And fantastic characters, fantastic story. It moves at a great pace. I don't even know what to compare it to, but Susin Nielsen has previously only written middle grade books, so this is her first adult novel, and I think it's fantastic. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars and absolutely loved it. Next up is one, probably my favorite read of this month. Other than Snap, I think I really love this book, and I was not expecting to. Actually, I've never read from this author before. I just wanted something that would make me feel creepy and give me the scary kind of vibes. So I picked up The Only Child by Andrew Pyper. This book, okay, so this is a true psychological thriller, and it's also kind of got historical elements to it, fantastical elements to it, and it's one of those that kind of reminds me of Silence of the Lambs, not the book, but the movie, in that I could visualize this in my head playing out like the movie, and it gave me that same kind of feeling of being unsettled and not stressed, but kind of freaked out, to be honest. Anyway, we're following a psychiatrist in New York City named Lori, I believe. Lily, sorry. Her name is Lily. She's a forensic psychiatrist who deals with the very worst of the worst criminals who have committed these heinous crimes. And she is the one who interviews them, trying to get to the bottom of what they've done. And she herself has lived through a trauma. When she was very young, she and her mother were staying at a remote cottage in Alaska, and her mother was attacked and killed by a bear. She has brief memories of this event, just kind of flashes like PTSD, but she has, through, therapy and so on, worked through it and become a psychiatrist herself so she can help others. That's the main gist of Lily. One day, she's assigned this client who is called Client 4687, a nameless person that she is assigned to. I'll just read you the synopsis because it can cover it better than I can. Anyway, he insists that he is not human and believes that he was not born but created more than 200 years ago. As Lily listens to this man describe the twisted crime he's committed, she can't shake the feeling that he's come for her, especially once he reveals something she would have thought impossible. He knew her mother. Lily was only 6 years old when her mother was violently killed in what the investigator said was a bear attack. But anyway, now this man, a man she feels certain is different from all the others, may hold the answers to the questions she's buried deep within herself. So not only does this patient, or this client rather, claim that he was created 200 years ago, that he's a monster, he also claims to be Lily's father. So understandably, she wants to get to the bottom of this. For some reason, she believes him. This leads her on a journey that takes her from New York City to Hungary, across Europe, following the tracks of this guy and his supposed history. He tells her that he was in fact the inspiration for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. He also inspired Bram Stoker's Dracula. And he also was the inspiration of Mr. Hyde in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So he claims that he knew all three of these authors and he was their muse, and, because he was this monster that could change and play to whatever audience that, he was in front of, kind of thing. They all took inspiration and wrote their books because of him. So that's interesting as well. At around the 46-page mark, there's a scene that is just wild. And the story what starts off as a mellow kind of a story just takes off from there. And I could not stop reading this book. Fantastic. 4 out of 5 star read. It was, like I said, creepy. It kind of reminded me of Silence of the Lamb vibes. Lily reminded me a little bit of Clarice in that book. And although they were different jobs. But anyhow, this is a crazy romp that will keep you entertained and on the edge of your seat. I look forward to reading more from Andrew Pyper, and yeah, The Only Child. I also love the cover. It's very kind of, mysterious and creepy, just like the book. All right, next up, this is a book I was saving from one of my favorite authors. I've read all of his previous books. The person I'm talking about is Grady Hendrix, and the book is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. This came out earlier this year, and I've been saving it for October because I knew I'd want to maybe read a little Grady Hendrix. And yeah, I got about 130 pages in, and honestly, not much happens. Super disappointed in this book. I didn't even finish it because up until this point, we just are getting to know these young girls who are taken to a home for unwed teenage mothers in the 1970s. And it's all the young girls that are staying in this kind of like a boarding school place where they study and they are taken care of. They have all their needs met. They set them up with doctor's appointments and so on. And the only thing is we don't know what happens to the babies after they get born. I didn't get that far into the book, but I got far enough that we meet a few of the main girls at this place, and the story mostly focuses on, well, Fern, the first girl. As soon as they arrive, they're forced to ditch their actual names and take on the names of flowers, which is kind of odd. So they're all named after different plants or flowers, Fern being the main one. And then, yeah, they're all kind of complaining about their situation. None of them are overly happy to be there or with their circumstances. Some of them are in the later stages of pregnancy, so they're absolutely miserable. They're huge and having trouble, you know, regulating their body temperatures and sleeping and being comfortable and that kind of thing. And all the things that affect women in the later stages of pregnancy. So yeah, it's mostly about them settling into this place and meeting each other and developing relationships. And the part I got to was the very first inkling, 130 some pages in, of any type of witchcraft or witchy vibes in this book. There's like a mobile library that comes to this home, and the girls find a book that has spells in it, like kind of recipes or things you can try on people. And they decide amongst themselves that there's this one doctor that they don't particularly like. I'm not sure exactly why. He just gives them the creeps because he's a man and they're young girls, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so they decide to use this spell on him where you can transfer whatever is ailing you onto another person. They try it. One of the girls is nauseous and vomiting, so she tries and it works. She's able to transfer her nausea and vomiting to this doctor, and it makes him sick. So they're all elated to find this spell book that actually works. And yeah, thing is, I wasn't interested enough to continue reading. Like I said, not a whole lot happens other than the focus being on the teenage pregnancies, the fact that people in the 1970s smoked all the time when they were pregnant, and just these girls commiserating in this place. And there's a lot of buildup without a lot of stuff happening. So unfortunately, this was a huge disappointment to me. And now it makes more sense why I haven't seen hardly anybody talking about this book on BookTube. It's been out almost a year, and well, half a year anyways, for sure. And yeah, I haven't really heard any reviews or any of the kind of excitement or yeah, enthusiasm that most of his other books have garnered over the years. So I can see why. You might like it. I'd still encourage you to pick it up if you're curious, but yeah, I don't know if I'll ever finish this book. There's too many books I want to read, so I don't know. I might come back to it one day. We'll see. But yeah, huge disappointment. Sorry, Grady Hendrix. I love you, but did not enjoy this one at all. Can't even rate it because I didn't finish it. DNF. So that said, my next move was to go to the library and see if I could find some books for spooky season to keep reading up until Halloween. And one of the ones I picked up is called The Sixes by Kate White. This was a super fun romp. It's everything you'd expect in a popcorn thriller, a highly bingeable, fast read that you can just flip the pages and consume in a couple sittings. This book, we're following a secret society of girls called the Sixes. The main character is a lady named Phoebe, and she goes to teach at this Ivy League school, not an Ivy League, a regular university, sorry, in somewhere in Pennsylvania, I believe. Anyway, and there are some students that are being murdered. They figure there's a serial killer on the loose, and Phoebe, who's gone to temporarily teach at this university, has a background in investigative journalism. So she takes it upon herself to look into the secret society, figure out the murder mystery behind what's going on. And along the way, she has interactions with some interesting characters. There's a bit of a romance that develops. And yeah, this was a super fun read. Perfect for the mood I was in. It was fast. It was, like I said, a popcorn thriller that you can just breeze right through and have a good time. And I really liked it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So yeah, it pulled me out of the disappointment of the Grady Hendrix book. Next up, this was a recommendation from my friend Caitlin over at Spill the Reads. I'd never read any Rachel Harrison before. She's a huge fan of her, so I thought I'd pick up So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. This is a fun, great, kind of a, I want to say road trip, but it's not exactly a road trip. It's a vampire novel, a straight up rollicking good time of a vampire fun novel. We're following a character called Sloane. Sloane and her best friend, his name is Naomi. They're 2 very different girls. They're in their 20s, I believe, and Sloane is married. Her and her husband seemingly have a good marriage, although, you know, there's some things about him that make her unhappy. And so for her birthday, he buys her this trip, this girls' weekend getaway at this place, this resort, somewhere in the mountains, I believe. And she's got Naomi coming to town, and they're going to go on this road trip to this place and have a good time, do all the relaxing, fun stuff, hit the nightclubs, you name it. So Sloane is really excited. She hasn't seen her best friend Naomi in a while, and Naomi is a kind of a party girl. She's a wild spirit. She is a fantastic character to read. They both are, but I enjoyed Naomi, I think, a little bit more than Sloane even. So anyway, they end up going partying on this birthday weekend, and Naomi is the more outgoing of the 2. She meets this guy in the nightclub, and he invites them over for a party. Of course, at this party, they encounter a bunch of very attractive people who are in all kind of states of intoxication and undress. And sure enough, they are vampires. So the story goes from there. I don't want to give too much away, but if you're looking for a really fun, kind of twisted, dark comedy with the two female protagonists at the center of this story, it's about friendship. It's about having an adventure and a good time in your 20s, I think. And yeah, I really like this book. It was a lot of fun. I gave it, I didn't love it. I liked it a lot, but I was ready for it to end by the end of the book. So yeah, it's not something I would read all the time, but I did enjoy this one. I gave it a 3 out of 5. And yeah, it's a great contemporary vampire road trip, female weekend away kind of a novel, if that interests you. So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. And lastly, but not least, I read A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. This is my final book of the October spooky season, and I've been meaning to read this for a long time. I'm glad I finally picked it up. I love T. Kingfisher. I had previously read What Moves the Dead by her and really enjoyed it, so I picked this up. This is a standalone book, and it is not at all what I thought it would be. A House with Good Bones is kind of an ironic title, and you can see there's a vulture on the cover there. We're following a lady in this book named Sam, who is a fantastic character. She is an archaeoentomologist. She studies bugs, like ancient excavations of insects and stuff like that. So she is currently on a furlough from her job because at one of the archaeological sites she was working at, they discovered human remains. So they had to shut the whole operation down. She doesn't know what to do, but she gets a phone call from her brother saying that he's very concerned about their mother, who lives in the family home in North Carolina, I believe. So since Sam isn't working, she decides to go stay with her mom and check things out and make sure she's okay. You know, they're wondering if she might have a little dementia happening or what's going on. When she arrives, she discovers that there are vultures. There's a vulture sitting on the neighbor's mailbox, and which is odd. In fact, there's a lot strange going on in this town. A lot of strange things happening in the house. Her mother seems to be the same, but not really. There are some weird things start happening for Sam. And this, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, this was a really funny, great character-driven story. It's not super action-packed. We mostly just follow Sam and her mom and the neighbors and the other people in the town as she's trying to figure out what is going on here. The mom, her mother, lives in her grandmother's house. So her grandmother passed away years ago, and in trying to find out what's going on, Sam starts investigating the history of her family, her ancestors, and so forth in this town. And yeah, things take a supernatural turn. It's just fantastically entertaining. I loved it. Sam is a character who's very funny. She's very sarcastic and relatable in a lot of ways. So I just loved her. So yeah, I wouldn't even classify this as a horror novel necessarily. It's got some creepy parts in it, but I mean, it's a family story at the root of this, and just loved it. If you're curious about T. Kingfisher and you don't know where to start with her, this would be a great choice to start your T. Kingfisher journey, and I look forward to reading more from her in the future. So there you have it, everything I read in the months of September and October. Thanks so much for bearing with me and following along here for the ride, and I hope you had a great fall reading season. It's November. I hope you have a great month for November reading, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.